Dra'Gora, Draenor's Honor, Chapter 4, The Weight of the Heart. Gorgrond's jagged, iron-infused cliffs loomed before them. For a moment, Drom felt a brief, fleeting relief. They had made it to the edge of the Tanaan jungle and crossing over into Gorgrond. Gorgrond's harsh terrain would be their refuge, but his hope was shattered by the screams of the dying that had pierced the air like a sharpened blade. As the Dra'Gora crested a ridge, the sight below filled Drom with fury and grief. The group of Mag'har survivors they had led out of Tanaan were surrounded by lightbound warriors, many already dead, some twisted by the light's influence. Blood painted the ground, and the bodies of Orcs lay dead and strewn across the stones like broken dolls. At the center of the chaos stood Draenor, the aging warrior's once proud frame now hunched and bloodied, his chest heaving as he shielded a handful of young Mag'har children behind him. The children sobbed, clutching each other, and their eyes wide and filled with terror as a lightbound priestess advanced, her hands alight with searing golden flames. "Surrender," she intoned, her voice cold and devoid of mercy. "The light will heal your pain." Draenor snarled, his teeth bared in defiance, though his body was broken. He spat onto the priestess's boots. "You want to heal us? Then burn me to ashes, and may those ashes choke you." Drom was already moving before he realized it. But Cargou stepped in front of him, blocking his path. "No, Drom," Cargou said, his voice thick with emotion. "This is my fight. Your place is with our people." He wiped a bead of blood and sweat from his cheek. Before Drom could protest, Cargou raised his hands, and the ground beneath them rumbled with elemental fury. The wind picked up, carrying the scent of rain and earth, and the stones themselves seemed to groan in anticipation. Cargou's eyes burned with an inner fire as he called upon the power of the elements, his connection forged through blood and pain, his pact with Draenor itself. The earth beneath the lightbound warriors erupted, sharp spires of stone spearing up and splitting the ground. A crackling vortex of wind and rock surged forth, slamming into the priestess and sending her sprawling. The lightbound staggered, momentarily disoriented, and Cargou seized the moment. He turned to Draenor, his expression softened for a brief, fleeting second. "Take the children," he said quietly. "Take them and run." Ragnor's eyes met Cargou's, and something unspoken passed between them. Without another word, Draenor gathered the crying children, pulling them into his arms and stumbling towards the safety of the ridge. Drom's voice broke, hoarse with rage and desperation. "Cargou, don't!" Cargou shot him a fierce, almost feral grin. "Draenor's honor, remember?" he said. "Go lead them. Drom, I'll buy you time." And then Cargou turned back to the lightbound, the wind howling around him, his form wreathed in the raw power of the elements. He raised his arms high, and the very skies seemed to tremble. A massive stone barrier erupted from the ground, sealing the path behind him, cutting off Drom's view of what happened next. Drom clenched his fists, his nails biting into his palms. He knew what this meant. He knew what Cargou had chosen. "Dra'Gora, fall back!" he shouted, his voice raw. "Get to Gorgrond!" The Dra'Gora obeyed, though their faces were twisted with sorrow and rage. They could hear the sounds of battle behind the stone barrier. Cargou's roar of defiance, the shouts of the lightbound, the crackling of elemental fury, and then silence. Drom didn't look back. He couldn't. He led the group deeper into Gorgrond, the rough landscape swallowing them. the shadows of towering rock formations hiding their retreat. The only sounds now were the ragged breaths of survivors and the quiet sobs of the children, huddled close to Ragnar. They pressed on until they found a shallow cave beneath the twisted, hardened lava. Drom slumped against the stone wall, his head bowed. He felt the loss of Cargou like a physical wound, a gaping, empty ache that would never heal. Ragnar knelt before Drom, the children now left in the care of other warriors, his face streaked with blood and dirt. "He saved us," Ragnar rasped. "He gave everything." Drom nodded, swallowing the lump in his throat. "He did," he whispered. "We cannot let his sacrifice be in vain. We cannot let them twist Cargou like they did Kilram." The name Dra'Gora had never felt so heavy. It was a burden, a promise, one that now carried the weight of Cargou's sacrifice.